So, Dan here, the new DM, finishing the last look at this playtest. I'm liking it so far. You might not. You might not. You don't have to. But if you do like it, I'm right there with you. If you don't, there's valid reasons not to like this thing. But we're going to finish it up. And then we've got, and by we, I mean me, I have some more content planned. So, Warlock. We've got Warlock Wizard, and then, like I said, I'm going to start doing some videos that aren't related to this. I just thought this would be a good way for me to get some practice in doing this crap. Because talking to a camera, to yourself, it's hard. It's weird. But the Warlock, speaking of talking to yourself, depending on which Warlock you take. Now, it's always been an interesting class. It often was treated as a 2-level, maybe 3-level multiclassing dip, right? You could really increase your power level quickly by multiclassing into a 5th ed Warlock as, say, a Paladin. And thematically, that made a lot of sense, because the whole idea of a Warlock is selling part of yourself through a pact, whether it be your soul, whether it be your allegiance, whether it be whatever, like depending on who you're selling to. You make that sale for the purpose of more power. So as long as they've kept that feel, I'm happy with it. But I have heard they've made some pretty drastic changes. The biggest one being they are just a regular old caster. Now, that's okay. I believe technically a half caster, I think they're a D8 with X amount of spells per level kind of thing, with cantrips, and then they got their invocations as their kind of unique class thing. That's fine. Like, they don't get as many spells as sorcerers, but they have more health, to my knowledge. And that's okay, as long as, like I said, they keep the spirit and they keep it mechanically relevant. It will also be curious, or I will also be curious to see if, the first 3 levels of this class work well for multiclassing. It does feel to me like they are aiming to make multiclassing better. They're moving a lot of level 20 features to like level 18 or things of that nature. Sometimes 15, not in this case. So they're moving some things around across the board from classes to make multiclassing more relevant to everybody, I think. Where you're not losing out on your capstone feature for if you decide, hey, this is my primary class, but I want to dip into something else. I think that's going to be more encouraged. They've front-loaded certain things, but they seem to have kept the first few levels a bit more tame, but a bit more multi-class friendly. So the irony is Warlock might be worse for multi-classing, but might be better for staying as, just a Warlock. I don't know. But I guess we'll find out. So, without further ado, let's take a quick look. Now, where is the... See, I like them putting the updates before the list, or at least starting it, but I guess they just didn't have room, because they have a fairly long explanation here that I'm not going to bother with, because the lore, I'm assuming, stayed the same. Here's the main update. Most of which were inspired by the Player's Handbook survey of 2021. So we got medium armor is now included. That's not a bad move, especially if they're going full half-caster with it. You could go medium armor if you specifically went Hexblade, I believe. So now everybody gets it. No harm in done. I don't see any problem with that. I think that's a good thing. Pact boon is moved From 3rd level to 1st. All of which are now. So, Eldritch Blast and Hex at level 1, just inherently. I've heard about this. Both have changed pretty drastically. Both have kind of been nerfed, but have kind of taken away one of the annoying things about, at least from a DM perspective, of people taking Warlock was often they would take 2 levels of Warlock or even 1 level of Warlock just for Eldritch Blast and then walk away from it and wouldn't care about dealing with the RP side of their pact or anything like that. They just wanted to be able to cast a spell that gets better and better as you level generally. So they made some changes on that one. And then they made some changes on Hex, but just giving you them as, hey, you just have these spells prepared. Don't worry about it. I think that always levels things out a bit in a nerf because you're not giving up that spell, even if the spell isn't as good as it once was. So hopefully it's not too bad. Pact magic has been replaced with spell casting. The most requested change to Warlock has been for them to be able to use their spells more often. So this is an interesting fix. The most requested thing was to use the spells more often. So they made them just a regular spellcaster, which does solve that. It puts them in line with everybody else. But now they don't get them back on a short rest. At least to my knowledge. I guess we'll get there when we look at their regular old spellcasting. That depending on the group, this is a perfectly fine fix to make them a regular spellcaster and will allow them to cast their spells more often. If you are a group with a lot of fighters and monks and other classes that get stuff on a short rest, this might not, this could be a downgrade for you. Now, the good news is, beep, beep, beep. The good news, the great news, lost my train of thought because I got a text message. And another one. Yeah. Gotta love people who put thanks as a separate text message. Though I wonder if that's like a power move. Now you have to pay attention to my text messages because I sent you 2. More likely to check it. Anyway. So if you're in a regular group, yeah, this gives you more spells per day, generally speaking, I would say. But the mechanic of all your spells being the highest level goes away. So what I was going to... I remember what I was going to say. If you preferred the old mechanic, this is where having both handbooks can be really handy. If you prefer the original Warlock, it should be compatible in... We swear it's not D&D 1. So, yeah, if you like the old way of doing things, it should still just work. You just can't pull from this book with it. Invocation now caps at 9 rather than 8. Cool. Mystic Arcanum has become an Eldritch Invocation option. Now available level 5. Previously, they had to wait until 11th. Okay. So we'll take a look at that. Contact Patron is an 11th level spell. Depending on how you have... Well, we'll have to check that spell out, because for some, that might not be a big deal. Hexmaster is a new 18th level feature. Eldritch Master has being removed. And then, so I wonder, okay, 5e Warlock. Wikidot, because I like their layout better. So the Eldritch Master was the capstone. They have removed them. Mystic Arcanum. That's my double. Is now a invocation option. But before happened a few times. But I didn't see a lack of things. Okay, so yeah, they took a few things out. They moved them around, put them in. This holds up with the idea of we're going to turn a lot of class feature stuff into spells. But in this case, they're moving some class feature stuff to the invocation. So as long as that doesn't hurt too bad in terms of weakening it, that's actually not the worst. Because they gave you an extra invocation. I wonder if Mystic Arcanum... Okay, this is my backup one. Let's make it legible for those at home. No, I need... Mystic Arcanum repeatable. That's what I was going to check. So you used to get a bunch of these for free, quote unquote. I always like to say included, because it's kind of like Netflix. When somebody's like, "Oh, well, it's free with Netflix," it's like, no, I paid for Netflix. It's there, right? So you pick Warlock, and you used to get this included in your class stuff, and now you can decide to choose it. Because it's repeatable, you could, in theory, take it the same amount of time as before. So it looks like you would normally have gotten 3 instances of this. You do get an extra invocation as a Warlock. So as long as they've made up for it in some of the other things they've added, I think that's fine, because you do have 1 extra, so you lose out potentially on 2. But if you didn't care about the Mystic Arcanum, then you're gaining an extra thing for losing those spells. And especially with the way the spells work now, you're going to have quite a few more. I don't think it's as big of a deal in terms of spell slots and stuff. All right. Contact patron. Looked at that already. We'll read this feature when we get there. Hexmaster, epic boon. All right. Creating a warlock. Nothing's really changed there. They start with a sickle and 2 daggers. It used to be picked from 2 different sets of things, I think. So that's going to be interesting if it's just, here's the new loadout. I haven't checked these too carefully. I'd be curious how much has actually changed in some of the starting equipment stuff, or actually will change in the end with starting equipment stuff, or if this is going to be, they just threw this in because this is the playtest. But proficiencies all look like what I'm used to seeing. Multiclassing and Warlock, again, front and center. I hope they keep this. If anybody from Wizards of the Coast watches this, keep this idea. Add half of your Warlock levels rounded up to the appropriate levels from other classes to determine your available spell slots for casting spells. You prepare spells for each class individually, referring to spell... yeah, so you add your spell slots based on that, and then your available spells based on your class level. Easy enough. If a wizard or something dips into warlock, they get light and medium armor instantly. I like that. Not having to go into a martial class to get that. It's kind of nice. Interesting. Okay. Anyway, carrying on. Warlock class features. So they get pact boon. So pact magic and then pact boon was at level 3. And then okay, so pact boon used to be level. I remember this now. Oh, it's been a while since I've made a warlock. Because you always pick your patron at first level, and that determines stuff you're going to get later. Oftentimes, it would change. Like for example, like Hexblade would have a few spells at level 1 and then features at level 1, and then nothing till level 6 because you're then choosing Warlock stuff. Thanks, Microsoft. You're now choosing Warlock stuff at level 3. So now that the boon is at level 1, they can give you a subclass feature at 3rd level instead of 6th. I like that. Now, were they all kind of like that? Yeah, before you wouldn't get any of your patron stuff till 6th level, and now stuff starts happening at 3rd because you make this choice at level 1. I'm cool with that. And that, to me, makes sense thematically of, like, you've made your pact and you get a boon from it right away, as well as multiclassing. Like I said, removing some of the advantages of going with a warlock as a multiclass option, I think is fine as long as they level things out. This, to me, is them level things out, right? Being able to, hey, first level, you get your pact boon, pact of the blade, pact of the chain, pact of the tome, sweet. And yeah, just overall, it integrating easier into other spellcasters, but without being too overpowered in terms of some of the exploits you could do, which it's not an exploit really. It's just a strong synergy. So evening that out to make it not just the first thing on everybody's mind, but still, getting this stuff all at first level. I think that opens up a 1 level dip into Warlock. Because normally you get your Pact boon at 3. So if you wanted Hexblade, not Hexblade, Pact of the Blade, Pact of the Chain, whatever, you've got to do 3 levels. So you could do 1 level in Warlock to get the boon, which is sweet. That's actually really nice. 2 levels if you want to get a couple invocations. Now, what'll be interesting when we get to the invocations is, do they say class? Did they specify? I think they specify levels in Warlock as opposed to levels in just general character level. And if that's the case, then some of them, depending on when you dip, might not be as useful as others, or available as others. But yeah, I like that. That's a big change. In my head, I didn't think that was as big of a deal as it was, and I think that fixes a lot of the, but I don't get, my 2 spells back on a short rest when I multiclass my paladin into, this is perfectly fine, and I think is actually really useful for a like a wizard or a sorcerer or somebody else dipping into a one level of warlock, potentially two. We'll see when we get to the invocations. All right, what else changed? Oh yeah, they get Eldritch Blast and Hex, and then Pact magic changes to spell casting. There's not a lot of changes. Interesting. So the interesting thing is they changed some basic mechanics without doing any too massive changes to the class by the look of it. So this happens early. Oh, I lied. These are bigger changes than I thought. So they've changed, as I said before, the spell Pact Weapon. So, Pact Familiar is now a spell instead of a bonus to your familiar spell that was like a really long explanation to how to do it. You summon entity. It has its own stat block. I love that they're moving to this, right? Players don't usually have access to the monster manual because why would they? So they usually just have to Google, like, it's always an owl if they don't have the advanced feature set. So just having, hey, here's your stat block, no matter what you kind of do. I like it. Use the Pact Familiar. If you already have a familiar from the spell, that familiar transforms into the new one. Makes sense. You don't get a second Pact Familiar. Whenever you cast a spell, choose a familiar type. Tentacles, that's funny. Celestial gives you owl, raven, or other bird. Dragon, pseudo dragon, or similar dragonette. Fae gives you a pixie sprite. Fiend, emperor, undead, skull, or shadow. Yeah, having just like a flying skull behind you is funny. Now, something I note here, I'm willing to guess without seeing the stat block. The vast majority of these, other than maybe a knot of tentacles, would be something that can fly. So I have a suspicion there's just going to be a generic fly speed on the stat block. In combat, it shares your initiative count. This is nice rather than... shares your initiative count rather than having to roll it separate. I like that, but it takes a turn immediately after yours is also important. On its turn, takes the dodge action and uses its move to avoid danger unless you use your reaction to command it to attack instead. Disappearance. I could dismiss it as a bonus action. I can't remember if that was a bonus action before. It might have been an action to dismiss it. Oh, do you have to... I don't think you can unsummon it and summon it at will anymore. That's an interesting change. I thought maybe that was getting exploited in some weird ways and annoying DMs, but I always liked that. I snap my fingers, my dude disappears, I snap it back, and it's back. Remote viewing as a magic action, you can see through... what your familiar sees and hear what it hears until the end of your next turn. So, yeah, and you can just keep re-upping this as a, like, warging into it. That's fine. Cantrip upgrade. When you reach 5th level, you can communicate telepathically with familiar as long as you two are on the same plane of existence. Additionally, while perceiving through your familiar senses, you can also speak through your familiar in your own voice. That's funny. That's... Oh! Okay, so this is... I missed a big keyword that is... yeah, good, it's right above everything. I didn't notice that this was a cantrip. I thought this was a spell. There's no cost to it. This makes perfect sense now that you can't just snap your fingers and resummon it, and it takes an hour to resummon, which is unfortunate, but does prevent some of the, I bamfed it out of existence really quick, and then I just have it back. But yeah, there's no cost to it. Yeah, fly 40 feet. I was right there. Like, you probably won't be using it as a... you probably won't be using it as, like, an attacker. Like, they don't even have... Well, let's see. Alright, so... At least it has dex. I see the strength -4. That is so that you can't have it carry anything too big. Dark vision, 120 feet. That is... Ooh. That is a lot. At least I'm fairly sure. Isn't most dark vision like 30 feet? And then dim light after that, blah, blah, blah. I could be wrong. Passive perception, 12. Challenge, blank, doesn't matter. Proficiency bonus equals your bonus. Probably because it has some, yeah. All right, actions, melee spell attack, and then with a damage based on what type you summoned. That's kind of cool. Dragon being limited to fire is a little bit limiting. However, ask your DM, right? If you're like, hey, I want to be summoning a dragon that breathes acid. Yeah. 100%. Right? It doesn't change anything other than its appearance. So, because it is something that you'd be able to do. All it actually changes is that when somebody does, like, detect evil and good or something like that. Which, if those spells have changed, who knows? That's the only thing I could see that changing. Invisibility. And again, this that is underneath my... This is important. Rather than being able to bamf it in and out of existence, it can just simply become invisible. So you can remove it from existence, or you can have it be invisible, which I'm guessing... Nope. I'm going to see if they have changed. Oh, man, I cannot spell. I'm just going to hit... Find fam. Oh, is it? Oh, it's from... Oh, I guess maybe you just... Did they not have... Okay, so there's the pact familiar that we just saw. Okay. Next. Interesting. Okay. I could not see regular find familiar in here. I have a suspicion they're going to change find familiar a little bit, but it won't be as good as pact familiar. Especially the fact that pact familiar is a cantrip. That's actually a rad change. I can get behind that 100%. The mechanics change slightly, but relatively stay the same, right? You can use your action to look through its eyes instead of just, or you can have it turn invisible. Is the bigger one, right? You can use its action for it to turn invisible, which rather than just being able to dismiss it at will, it keeps that. The fact that it's a cantrip and doesn't have any material requirements, I think is actually really cool as well. Although I can't remember if under Pact of the Chain, it's been a long time since I've used it. You learn to find familiar, cast it as a ritual. Spell doesn't count against the total number when you cast a spell. Yeah, so you can cast the old one as a I don't know. Oh, yeah, because you might not have ritual casting. I was like, you can cast it as a ritual. Why does that matter? Oh, yeah, because it did. Yeah, so the original one was just like a beefed up find familiar that could be some other forms that you then had to go and look up. Yeah, so I much prefer this change. Pact weapon. Ooh. Oh, and of course, it sent me right back to the beginning. I will have to find where it was. Pact weapon, also a cantrip. Gives you proficiency, makes it a returning weapon. Can conjure a simple or martial weapon, or create a bond with the weapon in your hand. Duration 24 hours. So, instantly I see a few really cool things. So, one, it creates a returning weapon. So, if you go with something with the thrown property, or if you have something with the thrown property, you can throw it a lot. That's pretty cool. I like that. But because it lasts 24 hours, you can't like just cast it kind of thing, because I'm willing to guess that you can't have more than one weapon with this. Yeah, it ends when you create a bond with a different weapon. So yeah, you can't. And because it's an action. But yeah, the returning weapon. I could see this. Yeah, Pact of the Blade as a fighter or rogue actually makes sense now, because you take one level in it, you get a returning weapon on one of your weapons. You make your offhand like a dart or something, whichever one gave you advantage on your next one, so that you can have two light weapons, dual wield them, throw one, hit them, cause advantage on your your bigger, badder weapon, and then you throw it. Yeah, there's a bunch of synergies I'm seeing that could work really well. So that's actually really cool that it is returning. What else does it do? When you hit 5th level, you get gain the extra attack feature. That feature, you can attack twice with the weapon instead of once. This is always a important wording, because it's you can attack twice instead of once is so that you don't end up with this stuff stacking. So no, taking 5 levels in this doesn't give you 3 attacks. If you're a fighter, your fighter can do that inherently. But so so Pact of the Blade all of a sudden. Actually is super valid and awesome for a whole bunch of classes. Like even a druid could potentially take this to take Eldritch Warrior and I know on my Spore Druid I'm meleeing a lot. Because this is a way better shillelagh in a lot of ways. Especially because when you cast it on a weapon, you get proficiency with it. Must lack the heavy property. I'm just going to see if there was any limitations. And you can conjure it, or you can cast it on something. So anything without the heavy property. So yeah, dual wielding is definitely on the table. It is a melee weapon, like a martial melee. So I know there were a few builds before with Pact of the Blade that would use like heavy crossbows. So moved away from that. It has to be a melee of some kind. I do, like I said, I like that it can be returning. I mean, heck, you could do like a javelin or some crap and really make this thing wonky. Which instantly my head goes to imagine, like I imagine then it would be like a gladiator with a javelin in hand, who like sold his soul to win in the arena or something like that, and now the javelin never goes away or something funky and weird like that. Just how my brain works. That's really cool. All right, where the heck was I? That's the spells and junk. I was way down here because it sent me right back to the beginning because I clicked something wrong. And then Spell Book of Shadows. This was weird that this became a spell. Also a cantrip. So it summons a book. Duration instantaneous. The book appears, you choose 2 cantrips and 2 first level spells that have the ritual tag. They can be from any of the 3 big spell lists, which if you've seen my previous video, my previous VOD right now, I haven't put the video out yet because it glitched. Thanks, YouTube. But it should be up later, probably today. Arcane, Divine, and Primal are like your 3 main spell lists. So basically, you can pick any spell that has ritual as long as it isn't like a class feature spell. Because that's what they're doing, is they're having 3 big lists plus class feature spells or class spells. I'm here for it. They must be spells you don't already have prepared. Okay. I think it would be a waste to prepare, although because you can cast them ritually, I could see this being important. Spellcasting focus, so you can use the book as your focus, which is cool. You know, that invokes things of like I hold the book open and the pages flip through and the spell comes. Spell disappears if you cast a spell again or die. This also opens up the so for RP stuff, ditch the book. Your DM should be fine with it as long as it is something that can be seen as like a spellcasting focus or something like that. Because like somebody pulling out a book that has spells in it always invokes a bit of a different imagery than I pull out, a block of wood, right? Like it has to have something carved on it that makes it unique. But it's the old what makes a spell book question. Right? A lot of wizard builds in the past have like homebrewed a way or just reskinned the spell book. Do that here perfectly fine, where then you're summoning a spell focus, just something that can be recognizable as said spell focus, that then you cast the ritual stuff out of. Only you can access the benefits, obviously, because and then I heard about this. So, reskin it to whatever the heck you want. That's what I would say. Because there's nothing inherent about this that makes it have to be a book, other than it says book, right? So mess with it. I think that could be fun from a RP perspective. Cantrip upgrade. 5th level as a warlock. Enhances other cantrips while the book is on your person. You can add your warlock spellcasting ability modifier to the damage rolls of any cantrip you cast that doesn't have that modifier added to the damage roll. Okay, I'd be curious to know, are they getting rid of the invocation that lets you do that for Eldritch Blast? Because this is now any of them. Which also makes, even though Eldritch Blast comes with the Warlock, quote unquote, it's still more powerful to use it with Eldritch Blast because it has the separate beams. But this does open the door a little bit for other cantrips to actually catch up a little bit. But that's really cool. I'd be curious if the, like I said, if the Eldritch Blast thing, it also then saves you an invocation to do with something else, like something else cool with it. So it makes it inherent to this particular one and makes like, here's your blaster, right? If you want to be the blaster, go with the guy that summons the book. If you want, like the cool familiar thing that has some extra ways of like spying on things and doing all that kind of stuff, that's an option. And then you also have, Pact of the Blade, which just makes perfect sense now as a multiclass for almost any martial person that feels like doing something, as well as any like weird melee wizard, or I could see bards doing it, and now technically druids for reasons that we'll get to, because I have, unlike some of the other classes, I watched a bit of, I think it was Instructor Boy, looking through this stuff, and it inspired me to, I can milk this too. So preparing spells and spell casting stuff. So like I said, dope. I like all of these. The Book of Shadows thing makes Pact of the Tome your Eldritch Blaster rather than Warlock, that being... Oh, okay. Whether that being every cast, right? Because it kind of sucks in some cases to like, I make this really unique Warlock, and it's like, I cast Eldritch Blast every turn. If you want to do that, Pact of the Tome is there for you. So, but if you want to do something else, I think Pact of the Blade is like really sweet for multiclassing. Like even a fighter might dabble into that. I could even see ranger rogues with that return feature could be sweet. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of classes now. Like I said, they really seem to be making multiclassing more balanced, but also more encouraged. So I'm all for it. That's the vibe I'm getting. So spell casting. Cast a spell. Player's handbook for rules on spell casting. Information below. Yeah, so they have just gone with standard spell casting rules. Okay. Cantrips. Whenever you gain a warlock level, you can replace one of your cantrips. Okay. That's I think before that was like every Tasha's added that of like every 3 levels or something. So just being able to change it out every level, I think is actually really handy. No limitations there, other than it has to be on a level up, so I like that. 4th and 10th level in your class, you can learn another arcane cantrip. Okay, cool. Spell slots. Yeah, they're relying on the arcane list. That's fine. Oh, that's the other thing I missed. I thought this was later. I just am blind. So your spellcasting ability changes between which pact you make. So yeah, Pact of the Blade is Wisdom or Charisma, which makes Pact of the Blade again like really useful as, say, I am a cleric or I am a pending to keep it a Charisma class, a paladin, right? Pact of the Chain, I am a wizard, I am a sorcerer. Tome, intelligence, wisdom, like this all makes perfect sense. Interesting that you could make a wisdom-based Pact of the Blade, like just a warlock where it is just purely Pact of the Blade, where you've like sworn your oath to a blade, and that because depending on available, like if they keep the Hexblade, the Pact of the Blade, you could really make like a very monk-esque. No, I have sworn an oath to this blade, for it is down my family line, etc. And really opens up some doors to like a pact that dramatically fits well for like a good warlock, rather than just, well, I guess it's gonna be a celestial because I want to play a good one, but then you're stuck with yeah, that's sweet. Okay. That's what I was curious about, because I thought that was going to come up under spellcasting, but apparently it came up under the pact you take. I am intrigued by Pact of the Tome not relying at all on charisma. So this is the first warlock in any of these recent 5e stuff that doesn't use charisma. Some have house ruled, like, yeah, if you're wanting, you can make like an intelligence based warlock, but being able to make a purely wisdom based casting warlock or a wisdom based intelligence, or sorry, an intelligence based warlock, that's sweet. I like that. Cool. I'm liking all the changes I have seen so far. Yeah, all this looks like just regular stuff. Spellcasting ability or pact. Yeah, if I had somehow completely glazed over this, it mentions it directly here, so that's cool. Arcane focus, all that stuff. Yeah, so like it sounds like everything here is pretty much the same as a regular old caster, or like half caster, given how many spells they get. Notifications. So can't pick it twice unless it says otherwise. If a prerequisite, you must meet. Yeah, it must be 5th level. Warlock is different than like 5th level. And this is something if you've seen me mumbling my way through some of the some of the bonus feats, the epic boons. those pact boons are stuck in my head. The epic boon stuff under the feats does the same thing. Epic. So this is something I missed. So prerequisites, you must meet any prerequisites specified to take the feat. If your prerequisite is a level, you must exceed that level. If it is a class group, or have one level in an eligible class to qualify. Which that's kind of fun. So if you've multiclassed into any arcane caster, you have access to the mage group thing. But this is what I missed because I was poking fun at I still don't like that they have single comma versus if they had a comma here after expert that came up a bit earlier on where that changes the reading completely, but it's because this is non-negotiable, and that's I think what they were trying to say here, because they're saying that the level 1 is separate from the other prerequisites, which I get now. The wording I still think could be worded clearer in my defense, but I just misread it. The character level versus class level, though, in this case, so they're going to say 5th level Warlock. When you gain, additionally, whenever you gain a Warlock level, you can choose one of the invocations you know and replace it. So every level you can replace it. Yeah, and you can replace the spell from Mystic Arcanum by basically taking it again. You can only do it for 1 per, which is fine. Then Warlock subclasses. The Fiend is detailed here, and none of them will work with. None of the previous ones will work with this new rendition. So if you're doing the playtest, you have to choose the Fiend. Okay. 4th level feat, Eldritch Invocation, subclass feature, Eldritch Invocation, feat. I don't like how they turn. I kind of do. I kind of don't. That they turn this to ability score improvement. It gave me hope that they were just making feats inherent, that you just always get them. But that's just too bad. All right. Subclass feature, contact patron. In the past, you have usually contacted your patron through intermediaries. Now you can communicate directly. Always have contact other plane spell prepared. With this feature, you can cast a spell without expending a spell slot to contact your patron, and you automatically succeed on the saving throw. Once you cast a spell with this feature, so I like this and I don't, because you can simply then cast it and contact your patron. But depending on the patron, this could be a wasted thing. It depends on how you and your DM are deciding to play it. So I'm not sure on that one. Invocation feature from the subclass. Invocation feat Hexmaster. You can cast Hex without expending a spell slot. What was Elder's Master? Yeah, this doesn't matter anymore. So, I'm going to have to look up what they've done to Hex to really know. Well, let's do that now. So here's what I'm seeing. This is an interesting thing with the Warlock versus some of the other classes. Sorcerer had, like, here's an ability you get at this level that happens to be a spell, but, here, you know, and then here's another one, and here's another one. You also do get a bit of subclass features tucked in there, but had some very, here's a thing. This seems a lot more like choice stuff. Like you get a big set of choices at level 1. You get invocation choices at level 2. You get your subclass at level 3. Again, a choice. You get a feat at level 4. Choice. Invocation. Level 5. Choice. Subclass feature. Choice. 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 Subclass feature. Choice. 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 Subclass feature. So you don't just get stuff. You always, I think Warlock is going to be one of the most customizable classes I've seen yet. Like a lot of the other classes that I've seen seem to be, here you get this spell, but you get to pick kind of certain aspects of what it does. Or, hey, you get this ability. Hey, you get this class feature. Hey, this just straight up every level is like, you get to make a choice. And then your subclass features, when they pop up, that is based on the choice you made at level 1. So, yeah, I dig it. This makes me want to play a Warlock, which is always a good feeling. The only Warlock I ever played was a couple levels in Hexblade, and I enjoyed it. Yeah. And anyway, then they got 20th level Epic Boon that... Yeah, that's... There's a few of those that are really fun, but the 20th level thing, I didn't even really go over them other than kind of, I like the implementation somewhat. Yeah. All right. Eldritch Invocation options. And actually, in my head, so something I missed on Epic Boon, just to be completely all over the place with this. When you, I have a suspicion that the Epic Boons do require, because they say 20th level, specifically on the class. I think you can get a lot of the regular feats, regardless of if you've multiclassed or not. And then the Epic Boon stuff, I think, is like you have to have stayed as one class till level 20. I don't know. That's the other thing. I think they need some clarification on how the bonus feats past level 20 work, because they've got this sort of Paragon system thing going that I like the idea of, but it's just the implementation seems a little clunky right now. But at the same time, it's high level D&D play. It's always been clunky. So options, updates. Okay, so Eldritch Invocations, like I said, these are going to be what people get to pick to like completely modify and mess with their class. I see instantly here, though, before I look at the changes, you can get this Agonizing Blast with... so anybody could be a blaster. It's just you inherently get it if you're the Pact of the Tome, is what I'm seeing. But some of these are good enough that I think it's worth, like, similar to how I was saying, like, oh, if you now they've sacrificed that spell casting or extra spell slot stuff, or not spell slot, Mystic Arcanum, sacrificing having that be inherent to give you an extra invocation. it just gives you, again, more choices. So if you didn't care about that, now you can pick more cool stuff. So because you get this essentially, and it doesn't look to stack, because I believe specifically the other one had said oh no, it was Tome of Ancient Whispers. Book of Book of Shadows. You can add your modifier, maybe any cantrip you cast that doesn't already have that modifier added to its damage roll. Yeah, so these don't stack, but then it opens up another one. So you could take this at level 2, and then at level 5, because you can swap these out every level. So you get it at level 2, and then you get basically another one at level 5, because it empties this slot out. Anyway, all right. I'm all over the place today. This is what happens when I'm not drinking and do this. Replaced by lessons of the first ones, which can be used to take. Okay, Whispers has changed. It's been replaced by, yeah, so I'm willing to guess basically probably was the same thing, but yeah. Ancient Secrets has been absorbed by the Book of Shadows and the Warlock's new spellcasting feature, so this just goes away. Replaced by Mystic Arcanum, replaced by Mystic Arcanum. Now clarifies that it doesn't decode secret messages. Okay. Favor of the Change Master is a new invocation. Okay, we need to look into that one. Gaze of Two Minds is now usable as a bonus action rather than... Okay, so we need to check out Gaze of Two Minds. No longer applies blinded and deafened conditions to you and allows you to cast spells from your space and requires 5th level. So we need to check out Eyes of the Runekeeper, Favor of the Chainmaster, Gaze, Gift of, just imported from, so they're just adding certain things that were in Tasha's, which is fine. Hexer enhances Hex, we'll have to look at that one. Lessons the first ones. New Invocation, dabble in different areas, cool. Life Drinker is now requires 9th level rather than 12th. Interesting. So that's cool. And heals you. I've heard some controversy around this. They'll have to specify what qualifies as a creature is, I think, part of the problem. Some people were saying the bag of rats. Of like, I carry around a bag of rats and I stab a bunch of them and I heal myself. Yeah, so you have to be careful of that. Minions of Chaos. Replaced Mystic Arcanum. Replaced by Mystic Arcanum. Okay, Repelling Blast now works on creatures that are large or small. So I think they used to be something else. So a bunch of these are going to be the same. So we're going to pop. I think this is our best course of action here. Start from the top. So a bunch of these went away. That's fine. We don't need to care about that. Favor of... All right. Favor of the Chain Master. 9th level requires Pact of the Chain. Whenever your familiar hits with its Eldritch Strike, the target experiences the following effect. Oh, this. All right. So I may have to take back what I said earlier about being able to select the damage type based on like, oh, I want a dragon that's acid. But we'll see. Target speed reduced by 15. Can't take dash or disengage actions. Ooh. Can't take disengage. That's cool. All right. I don't think I've seen that too much. I've seen just it reduces their speed. And I think they're going to be moving to this more of just it reduces their speed by X rather than half and stuff like that. Celestial, next attack roll against the target before the end of your next turn has advantage. The target is invisible condition. The condition is pressed for the duration. That's cool. So if you have a way of seeing invisible but your party doesn't, you can basically get rid of it until it gets hit. So that's sweet. And yeah, the next attack roll against. So it's kind of like guiding bolt. That's cool. Medium or smaller can knock it prone. Oh, and that just happens. Like you just hit him and it knocks him over. There's no saving throw. Charm condition until the end of your next turn. It perceives both you and the familiar as the charmer. I could see this getting fun and just ways of creating confusion on the battlefield. That could be interesting. Like charm condition, I think they must be making some changes to how it works in some senses. Because if they're making it inherently happen, right? Again, no saving throw. This becomes like better than charm person in combat, which could be the point, but I guess we'll see. You could also see this interestingly used in a like a boss fight against the players. Having the boss have a cool familiar that does some of this stuff, or giving the boss's minions stuff like this is something I might steal. Anyway, unearthly toxin, poison condition, so that's super powerful. Target has the frightened condition to the end of your next turn. You choose whether the target is frightened of you or the familiar. Also cool. Yeah, I have to double check. I think you can summon any of these regardless of what pact you take. I mean, generally speaking, people are going to think, oh, I pick Fiend. Because as far as I know, there's no like dragon pact. Like I could be wrong. They maybe added something. Yeah, that's pretty sweet. I like that. So that's just makes your minion better. Gaze of Two Minds. Fifth level Warlock or higher. Again, important. Warlock specifically, not like mage or something. I can use a bonus action, really humanoid, perceive through its senses until the end of your next turn. As long as the creature is on the same plane of existence as you, you can use a bonus action on subsequent turns to maintain this connection. While perceiving through the other creature's senses, you benefit from any special senses possessed by that creature, and you can cast spells as if you were in your space or the other creature's space. It does say willing, because that could break things pretty quickly. That is interesting, being able to cast a touch spell through your fighter. Or the rogue is going to go in and sneak in, and you're going to cast Fireball through your rogue, right? It also doesn't say that they have to be willing to let you cast the spell. So some shenanigans could happen of like, I'm going to look through the rogue's eyes, and they walk in and they see a bunch of things, and you decide to throw the fireball, or just, even if it's not your rogue, if it's just a rogue, right? If it's just somebody, you can, yeah, I can think of a way of really screwing around with this. That's fun. Just straight up fun. Doesn't seem broken in any way, but just fun. Do Minds, Protector, Hexer. This was the other one I saw on the page, but I didn't read yet. When you cast Hex, its range is 600. You have advantage on any Constitution saving throw you make to maintain your concentration on the spell. Although we haven't looked up the new changes to Hex yet, so maybe that's going to be important. We're going to finish these, look up Hex, and then we're going to... Oh, man, this is going to be a long video. To do lessons of... okay, yeah, you get a feat. Is available to a first level character. Okay, I was expecting this to be a lot more interesting. Life drinker. What did I spell wrong? Oh, it's one word. That's what. This was the controversial one because it is broken if somebody wants it to be, but a DM can always say no, but then it's putting the onus on the DM to say no, so making sure it's not too big. You hit a creature, okay, so requires Pact of the Blade, which you can get inherently at level 1 now, or not inherently, but you get at level 1. Takes extra 1d6 necrotic damage. In addition, the first time you deal necrotic damage with this invocation on each of your turns, you regain a number of hit points equal to the necrotic damage, which is really cool. That is really cool. I do wonder, they're talking about on your turn and things like that a lot more. I wonder if like they're going to specify certain things just don't work outside of combat, to try and negate like like I said, the bag of rats thing. Against swarms of enemies, this thing could be like really, really, really useful. When you hit a creature with a weapon, with the weapon of your pact weapon spell, the creature takes an extra 1d6 damage. In addition, the first time you deal the necro damage with this invocation on each of your turns, you regain the number of hit. So that's also interesting. So this can happen more than once. So if you have multiple attacks, you can deal this d6 on each of them. Similar to kind of like a toned down damage versus improved divine smite from paladins. But the healing happens once per turn, which makes up for the fact that it's a d6 instead of a d8, to keep it in line with something like a paladin. I'm here for it. I think as long as they figure out a way to make sure that the healing doesn't get stupid with players trying to break the game and DMs not having to police that, right? Finding a way to word it so that DMs don't have to say no a whole bunch of times. Even putting like a asterisk, your DM can decide if you know what, all it needs is the creature must have a higher max hit points than That would solve that. Or must have at least 2 hit dice or something like that. Because at 9th level, all the creatures you're going to fight are going to have at least 2 hit die. And, this is, I think, getting into... I think Pathfinder would do this for certain things. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a few easy ways to make this not break the game. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so now last thing I want to look up before we look at the subclass is just straight up the spell Hex, because they have made some drastic changes to it. Concentration up to 1 hour, bonus action. I can't remember if it was originally. Just regular old Hex. Bonus action, 90 feet. 90 feet, concentration up to an hour. When something dies, you can transfer it to something else. D6. Whenever you hit it with an attack. So the big controversial change is you can only deal that damage once per turn. And then higher levels, it lasts longer. It being a bonus action, so being able to cast it without expending a spell slot, that comes up later in a Warlock's life. I'm okay with that because then you can just constantly have this up. Oh, I lost my concentration. Oh, I cast a concentration spell earlier, and I'm dropping it so that I can do this because I don't expend a spell slot, and I just want to keep this going. The other thing I would have done, if they want to do this as... I would have... Take out the concentration, I think. Make it last 1 minute, get rid of concentration. That's how I would have done this. If you want to buff it a bit, just I cast this as a bonus action. It is now there. It doesn't go away. You are cursed, and I can do other things to you. Because it requires a remove curse to remove, right? Like this is no joke in terms of having to get rid of it. You can't just... Like it's not like poison condition where you can just hit it with your monk's fist and stuff these days. Yeah, higher levels just increase its range, or sorry, not even range. How long it takes to maintain. Okay. It does increase its damage as you level. Okay. That wasn't the case before. So it scales with level differently. Interesting. Okay. Up to 3d6. And a 24 from a 5th level spell slot. I mean, you can do a lot of stuff with a 5th level spell slot. However, you can cast it without expending a spell slot. So it's not using a 3rd level or higher spell slot when you cast it with... This is the problem with not having this as a class feature versus having it as a spell, is they have to make it kind of fit in. But if all this is doing is casting it as the first level spell, that's a kind of meh 18th level thing. It's like, yeah, I can cast this level 1 spell a whole bunch of times. Yay. I make it so that it is the equivalent of like a level 3 or something for the free thing then. Because right now, this interaction is a little wonky, because usually when you cast something for free, as if it's because you're not expending a spell slot, you can't up it. Because, yeah, 3d6 once per turn, to me, that sounds really low for a 5th level spell slot. Then again, it is inherently stuck on them. I think a lot of these problems go away if you get rid of concentration on it. Whether you keep it last an hour or not, just make the concentration part go away. And Hex becomes way better, despite being nerfed down. I'm assuming... Part of me thinks that this was so that it makes it less powerful from a multiclassing perspective. But yeah, the scaling up. Again, if the Warlock was the traditional, I'm a 20th level Warlock, so yeah, I've only got a few spell slots, but they're all really high level spells, or really high level spell slots, this could make sense. Of like, yeah, we're going to have this scale up, because then it kind of sucks for everybody but you. I don't know, man. I think it's fine. It's the best way I can describe what they have done with Hex. Hex was nerfed sadly. Yeah, sorry there. I missed your chat there, because I'm not used to having that, because I'm really new at this. Yes, 100% agree. It was nerfed badly. And yeah, casting without using a spell slot is always base level. Agreed. And yeah, I think they need to fix that if they want to make like Warlock seems real cool. I like what I'm seeing, but man, if you want to make Hex a center point of the class, you need to make it much better than it currently is. Maybe having it similar to some of those like cantripy spells that like level up as you do, as opposed to you have to cast, like, make it that if you're another easy fix. Okay, here's my fix. Now that somebody has hopped in my chat and mentioned this and got me back on my my Hex tirade, because I agree it's nerfed really badly. I wonder if we took Hex and instead of having it as when you cast it at higher levels, just make it if you are a Warlock of a certain level, it increases. Because then you get rid of risks of multiclassing stuff getting out of hand with it, and it makes the Hex Master, or whatever the capstone-y kind of, you can cast it without expending a spell slot, keeps that nice and powerful. Because if this was again, I would get rid of concentration, but if it was just improves as you level up, right? At a 5th level Warlock, it does an extra D6 or something like that. I don't know if how well that would work, but yeah, if they did something like that, I think that could solve a bit of this annoyance. Because I don't know, it's like, oh, I can cast it for free, but it's only useful if I use a 5th level spell. Yeah, I don't know. I think Hex is they got to go back to the drawing board. I like what they're trying to do. first thing I would do, get rid of concentration. Second thing I would do is tie this to the level of the character, not the level of the spell. They may have to nerf it a bit beyond this, because being able to cast it for free later on, or make it that you can cast it free starting really low level or something, instead of having this for free at like level 18 or whatever the hell. Yeah, not a fan. It's a lot of the other stuff I really like that they've changed. But yes, Kai, I believe, agreed. Hex is nerfed. I have hopes. It seems like they're really taking feedback in stride, which they kind of have to after how much they've done. They're doing spell level or class level to prevent multiclass. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they have to be really careful, because I don't know if you agree. I don't know how long you've been here. I've been harping on the fact they seem to be really encouraging multiclassing, which I'm all here for, right? Every class so far that I've looked through, not only do they have multiclassing front and center, but they've changed levels of a bunch of things to make multiclassing cooler, easier, and 2-level dips in a bunch of classes way more powerful, but also not out of hand. Being able to do Pact of the Blade taking 1 level in Warlock is sweet. And yeah, tying class level in to a lot of this stuff, because they're already doing class level with Eldritch Blast. So make Hex class level, just like Eldritch Blast. You have 2 signature spells for Warlock. One of them you made reliant on Warlock level. Just make the other one reliant on Warlock level, but it's still a level 1 spell. So on top of everything, it makes your level 1 spell slots more useful than being able to cast it for free later on. Just a bonus. Yeah. Agreed. I think you're agreeing with me. I don't know. It's hard to tell. I can't tell tones of voice over the internet. It's just how it works. But I appreciate you being here. This is like my 3rd stream ever as this channel. So thanks for stopping by. And yeah, I'm going to try and keep an eye on it on the chat whilst you are here. But where the heck was I? I want to look at the subclass. Now, Fiend Patron. So this all seems pretty boilerplate stuff from the last time they went the Fiend route. Updates. Replaces the expended spell list. Rather than merely expending your spell list, patron spells give you access to spells that you already have prepared. Okay, so right away I like this change. Well, I don't know if this is technically all that much of a change because of the way Warlock used to work, but just sorcerers are a really cool caster, and I actually I did a video last week. I'm putting it out hopefully this week. I've got to edit it because I did one of these streams talking about it. I do like what they did with Sorcerer, giving them some cool innate spells and stuff. Yeah, my girlfriend plays a Divine Soul Sorcerer in one of our games, and alas, I almost always DM, so I haven't played a lot of these classes myself. I've just had to deal with them. But I digress in a good way, because, interacting with chat. Who knew? Who knew that's a thing in live streams? But yeah, because they changed the way these spells work, changing it to you have these always prepared is a necessity, so that's fine. This I didn't see until this second, so that's cool. Once per long rest, you can cast one of these spells without a spell slot. Is sweet. I'm playing Dragon Sorcerers. Start with Metamagic Adept thanks to custom lineage. Ooh. Yeah, I like the we did a Pathfinder game where my girlfriend played a again sorcerer. She seems to really like them, and went with the dragon on that. And she was a like a cat folk or whatever they're called in because they're not technically tabaxi, I think, in Pathfinder, and so her draconic features were kind of hidden underneath her fur, but were slowly creeping out in different ways. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, I love this. Being able to cast a spell once per day without expending a spell slot. Again, that takes away from that hex feature because it's just like, well, there's a whole bunch of things I can cast without casting a spell or using a spell slot. I do like that though. Dark One's Blessing is now triggered by an enemy dropping a 0 within 5 feet of you. This is a big change that I heard about already that is really good, because before Dark One's Blessing, you had to kill it yourself, which would then you'd have to encourage your allies not to kill something if it was close to, because you wanted this. This is going to be a good change. Own Luck can now be used a number of times equal to your spellcasting modifier, and only once per rest. Probably a good change. This is a really nice change, actually, because we don't have the short rest spell slot stuff anymore. Because I think you could do this. I'd have to double check. I think you could do this on a short rest before, like a long or a short. And so Warlocks were very encouraging of their party taking a lot of short rests. So making this X amount per day, better call. Fiendish Resilience is no longer bypassed by magic or silvered weapons, which monsters almost never possess. Yeah, that is kind of funny. There would be like a few humanoid creatures you might fight that are wielding a magic weapon that this would have affected in the past. I've heard Hurl Through Hell has been buffed in a really really cool way. So we'll look at that in a second. So patron spells, free casting. Like I said, that's really cool. I really dig that. Fiend spells, Burning Hands and Command, cool. Scorching Ray, Suggestion, also cool. I like both of those. Fear, Stink Cloud, and yeah, you just have these prepared inherently, similar to every cleric ever, if my memory serves, like that kind of thing. Like there's a lot of spellcasters that just have, hey, you always have these prepared. I think I play a what the heck's my paladin? Oath of Vengeance Paladin, and this is how it works, is that you always have these prepared, and it doesn't count against your total spell list. Yeah, with Warlocks being more of a standard half caster, 3/4 cut, whatever the heck the numbers are, I think this is a good change. And I like the idea of you can cast one of your prepared spells from this feature without expending a spell slot, which means as you level, you can cast Stinking Cloud without expending a spell slot, or you can cast Blight without expending. Interestingly, I think they used to have Fireball on the Fiend spell list. It is no longer on here. I wonder if they're going to tone down Fireball. They openly said that it was a purposely overpowered spell because they wanted to have fun with it. So, but either way, it's not on here. I can't remember if it was before or not. But yeah, being able to cast, like, hey, here's some spells you have prepared. Cool. And then, yeah, you can cast one of these for free once a day. I would like to see maybe this expanded to more than just one spell on this spell list for free once per day, or once per long rest, but I'm going to go with day because that's how my brain works. I wonder if it would be broken. Have it be like, have the number go up slightly as you level, but you can only cast once per spell level as well, right? So you can do this, like, say, once you hit 9th level, you can do it twice a day, but you can't have it from the same spell level each time. So you can do, like, say, Burning Hands and Stinking Cloud, but you can't do Stinking Cloud and Fear. Yeah, I don't know. I like this feature, but I think it could be adjust. I mean, maybe as you level, there's enough powerful stuff that I'm overthinking it. I guess I should keep going. Again, Dark One's Blessing adjusted. This is a good adjustment. Temporary hit points if they are within 5 feet of you, or when you reduce an enemy to 0 hit points, or an enemy drops to 0 within 5 feet of you. Yeah, this is a really good change. Not much more to say about it other than, makes this a multitude of times more useful. Dark One's Own Luck. You can call your fiend alter fate. An ability check or a saving throw. Add a d10. You can do so after seeing the initial roll, but before any of the roll's effects occur. That's per spell casting modifier, which is fine. Now I'm curious, though. I've got this in separate windows now because that's what happens when I bounce between so many things. To 5e Warlock. I'm just curious how the original officially functioned. Fiend from the player's handbook. Yeah, it originally had Fireball. I'm not crazy. They replaced that with Fear. You can still get Fireball. Well, you just can get Fireball because it's on the Arcane list, unless they move Fireball to the Wizard list specifically, which I could see actually, although I'll be at Wizard next, pending I have enough time. I've been yammering a lot on this topic, so we shall see. Dark One's Own Luck was a once per long or short rest. So yeah, just having like, hey, you can do it X amount of times per day. Oops. Yeah, I'm good with that. Like I said, this keeps the game moving a bit quicker. Wizard got even more OP. I've heard, I haven't looked at it at all. The only class I saw before I looked into this was the Warlock, because I watched a bit of I think it was Instructo Boy or something like that. I just started following him recently, which encouraged me, like, I should start doing videos like he's doing. This is great. I like his style. Yeah, he was talking through this part, and yeah, I haven't seen Wizard yet, but I have heard nothing but like, yeah, it's a little broken. They kind of might have to pull it back a little bit. But yeah, having some of this stuff happening on just X amount per day, good decision. But yeah, like I said, I'll have to see what happens with Fireball. I'm curious now if that's a class spell. Fiendish Resilience, was this no longer bypassed? Okay, yeah, fine. This works fine. Hurl Through Hell. I've heard this has gone batshit crazy, and in a good way. Oh, hit a creature with an attack roll. You can use this feature to instantly teleport them to the lower planes. The creature disappears, and at the end of your next turn, the target returns to the space previously occupied. If the target's not a fiend, it must make a wisdom save. That's funny. On a failed save, takes 10d10 damage. On a successful save, it takes half that much. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest, unless you expend a spell slot of 4th level when you use it again. So you can cast this more than once, but they didn't make it a 4th level spell. That's a bit of an odd... With how many class features they've turned into spells, and then, okay, here's one that you can use once per day unless you expend spell slots to use it. Okay. I mean, I'm fine with it. It just seems like a weird breakaway from the way they are setting things up now. Yeah, and the fact that it just happens is cool. How did this work before? You can use this feature to... Okay, so yeah, I would send them. There was no saving throw before, but you couldn't use it again until... Okay. I keep clicking back to my secondary page for looking up spells and junk. I mean, this is cool. Again, why would you ever cast a 4th level hex? That's what I have to say about that, right? Like, why would you ever use a 4th level spell to cast hex when you could hurl someone through hell? Like, this doesn't make sense. But this is pretty rad. It is interesting. Yeah, it just happens, and it's on an attack roll, so you can use your Eldritch Blast to teleport them to hell. And you can do it multiple times a day, and they reappear at the end of your next turn. Now, that's important because you can't just continually hit the same guy and have them vanishing, etc. It does... So... What evens this out almost a little bit on a boss fight, because the fact that this can just inherently happen on a like a single creature, right? You're fighting a large creature and they vanish from the battlefield. Yes, it gives everybody time to, say, cast healing spells and things like that, but it does remove them from combat for one turn, in exchange for dealing 10d10 damage, which is a lot of damage. Holy crap. But it does mean nobody else can damage them for that turn. So it's not too bad. I think this is a bit overpowered, but in a really fun way. And... it's thematically crazy and cool. Here's the big thing. Like I said, if I was a fiend warlock, I would be using this as many level 4 spell slots as I have. How many is that at this level? When you get it, subclass feature. So you could do it twice a day, and it'd be all I'd be doing. And then I would be doing this 4 times a day forever. Yeah, sorcerers and that arcane burst is yeah. I'm a big fan of what they've done with sorcerers, because it really did distinguish them from just a innate casting wizard versus their own cool thing. I think they've really distinguished them a bit more in terms of their casting stuff. But this is... Why would I ever cast a level 4 spell again? This is just really cool. Lots of damage. thematically, right? Like, and the fact, here's the other reason I would always use this over any 4th level spell. You can miss, right? I use Eldritch Blast. I send out a bunch of Eldritch Blasts. One of them hits. Okay, I expend a 4th level spell slot to make it do this thing. Versus, I use a 4th level spell slot. I miss my attack roll. Whatever that spell was is gone, right? This is like guaranteed damage, right? This is like a paladin smite on cocaine. Like, this is just rad. And again, as I've said about reading through Warlock, this makes me want to play a Warlock. Yeah. And it makes me want to play a Fiend Warlock, which I've never had an inclination to do. One of my players did and didn't really enjoy it. I would. Yeah. This is just fun. I'm really curious what they do with some other subclasses. And like I said, I hope they fix Hex. I see what they were trying to do in that it was, every monk's dream to take Hex as a 1st level spell, and you use Fury of Blows and add an extra, what was that up to, like 4d6 to your turn at level 5. Like, that's, like, you just take, Variant Human, the spellcaster thing where you get to pick a level 1 spell and then you add Hex and it just becomes stupid. I see why they're trying to pull that back a bit, but I think they went way too far. A lot of the other stuff is cool, though. I think if they fix Hex and leave almost everything as is on this class, they have a real winner in terms of versatility between, like I said earlier, the fact that, like, every level on Warlock is basically a choice, right? You take a pact boon, you take an invocation, you pick your subclass, you take a feat or you up your stuff, you take another invocation, okay, you get your class feature, right? This is the first time where you don't actually make a choice. You just get it. Everything from level 1 through 5 is your call. Choice, subclass. Choice, subclass. Choice, right? You get to pick everything. As our friend here in chat, lovely having you here, mentioned, like, Sorcerer gets a bunch of cool stuff, and you can make choices in the moment of, like, I use this Sorcerer innate spell that I got to do, it would be a choice. Yes, yeah, no, I agreed, yeah, because it is a choice here as would be a choice. Feat at level 4 as AS. Yeah, they're all. I'm having a hard time separating that it is feat, period, and that ability score increase is a feat. That's still messing with my head a little bit. I know why they're doing it, because it's making feats more innate to the game. So DMs can't say, no, we're not playing with feats. It's just they're making it a bit more like Pathfinder, where just feats are a thing. Versus in 5th Ed, where I've never met a DM who's turned feats down personally, but I have heard that it's a thing. I just always, the more choices I can give my players, the better, is the way I look at it. But anyway, yeah, if you're playing a sorcerer and you use a spell and you can pick, like, okay, I've chosen these meta magic so I can make this thing, the customization you can do on a Warlock, I think, is just off the wall and fun. And yeah, you can customize all the other classes a ton. Don't get me wrong, but I think in particular, like, having basically every few levels, instead of a class feature that just happens, you get to pick a class feature that just happens. Like, this is really cool. You can do a lot of neat stuff. And like I said, dipping into one level of Warlock is now going to be even more common. Combining the fact that these pact boons happen at level 1, combine that with that the spellcasting modifiers are variable depending on which pact boon you take, making it more viable to more classes, really fits the idea of like, I want some quick power. Who can I sell my soul to? Right? That's just awesome. So yeah, playing through a level 20 Warlock sounds like a really good time, but also multiclassing is just really on the table. And as Kai here mentioned, I'm assuming Kai. If I'm mispronouncing that, let me know. The feats are no longer an optional thing of like, yeah, it's an optional thing. You can choose your DM's discretion, blah, blah, blah. This is innate. This is just a thing that's in the game. They're putting multiclassing stuff in the character descriptions, right? Keep this. Mellow out multiclassing so it doesn't make anything too stupid, but can be still fun and powerful so nobody feels like they're making a bad choice multiclassing. Yeah, multiclass like crazy. And again, multiclassing into Warlock always has made perfect sense from a thematic perspective. So, yeah, I hope they keep all this.